live from Caid. Tonight's guest is the Earl Marshal of Caid, Master Oliver Dogberry. And featuring a live performance by Mistress Christiana Wintour. Me? Ha-ha! I'm your announcer, Master Beorn of the Northern Sea. And here's your host, Master Laertes, McBride.
Well, good evening and greetings, everyone. How are you doing today? Thank you for joining us again. I hope you had a good Labor Day holiday and enjoyed our match game episode that we put on. It was a blast to do, and we were looking forward to doing it at Great Western this year. So we'll have to make sure we bring it back out. A couple of quick things before I bring Beorn in. Just for those in Caid, the West, and Untitled who are suffering through these series of fires and other challenges that we're having. If you need help, or if you're looking to see if you can help in any of those situations, I just want to make sure that to remind you, you can reach out to Mistress Algetha and the Caid Disaster Relief Coordinator. And even if you're from a different kingdom, she'll be able to refer you to the correct direction, see if you, again, need help or want to help out with our friends. And of course, our thoughts are with our friends on the Gulf Coast kingdoms that are once again being threatened by a hurricane. So I just want to get that out there. And again, feel free to reach out to Mistress Algetha, and she'll give you the information that you can need to help. And on that cheery note, let's bring in my compatriot, Master Beorn. Here he comes, all right? Yeah. Hello, Beorn.
Hello there.
How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. I had my first flu shot ever because I'm around people now that are immunocompromised. Right. And I didn't know that I would have the reaction to it that I had. It felt like for basically 2 days, I was afflicted with a sleeping sickness. And while I was asleep, I was being rolled by people with baseball bats for loose change. So I woke up sore, sleepy, but if it's anything I can do to assist with this upcoming pandemic addition to influenza, I'll do whatever I can. The other thing, today is a very special day because someone very special to both you and me is celebrating her Diamond Jubilee. And so I would like all of you, when you get the chance, to send your special, happy, healing vibes, your Care Bear stare, whatever it is you have, and send it out to Duchess Bridget on the occasion of her Diamond Jubilee birthday today. And so thank her very much. She's been a friend for you and me for so many years. It's just really nice to be able to acknowledge that. Right.
Actually, I had it on my list to say, hey, let's say happy birthday to Bridget. So what a fabulous lady. I have the wonderful opportunity to serve beside her as a Baron and Baroness, and then serve as her Rapier champion during her second term reign. So people are wondering, what's that jingly sound in the background? My daughter's practicing piano. So if you overhear some music, it's not my theme song. It's actually a practice. And her Grace is watching us and says, thank you so much. Mwah. Anyway, so what do you have up your sleeve for the arts and sciences this week?
Well, the first one I wanted to talk about is... So sometimes you want to nosh on a little something. You don't want a giant meal. You don't want to fill your body with the weight of several seasons. You just want something, a little aperitif. And for that, I recommend the YouTube channel, Medievalists. So Medievalists is just look it up, YouTube. /c/medievalists/videos, to be honest with you. Just go ahead and go to them, and they have any number of really cool videos about 1066, favorite books of the Middle Ages for the people that run the site, a journey into medieval Scottish history, interesting interchanges between Byzantium and China on the Silk Road, a whole series of videos. But I mean, some of them are as little as, say, 10, 15 minutes long, and some of them are closer to more like an hour. So you have an option there to look through some things that are more fitting in with what you want to look at right now. If you're not really looking into a 45-minute long overarching thing on medieval inventions, maybe instead you want something that's more like 15 minutes on just something about Harald Hardrada. So I recommend that one. It's got just a little bit of things for everybody. Also, once again, anything that's happening on YouTube, if it's something that you really appreciate due to the way the algorithms are, like and share and subscribe so that they see what's going on and they know that we're watching. The second thing I wanted to look at, this is something more along the lines of what happens when a rabbit hole turns into an anthill. And what I mean to say with that is that this is called the foodtimeline.org. And when you first look at it, it's just this kind of looks like someone said to themselves, you know what I really miss about Netscape? How wonderful websites looked in 2002. Because that's pretty much what this website looks like. It looks like something that someone decided they just, I don't know. They still had their AOL 4.0 CD-ROM, and they wanted to see what else they could find on it. So not exactly the most easily trod website, but the timeline is exactly what it states. It is the front page starts off with the beginnings of history and what we know on things like the Paleolithic findings of mollusks, oysters, mussels, the first time we know people used salt, all the way to things like rice and millet and various types of corns or wheat, to other types of grains. And then it goes down past that into things more approximating our time. For example, they start talking about 7,000 BCE, the production of wine and beer and where it started and where it went from there. All the way. Now, I will say that really only the first quarter to maybe the first third of the timeline is within the society's studying period, because once you get past that, you jump pretty much into 17th and 18th century cookery relatively quickly. But from that point, it also talks about a lot of things in the New World for those of us that are doing Western European concepts, because there's a lot of things that we talk about not happening in Europe until the 17th century or late 16th century, but it had been happening in South and Central America for millennia. Obviously, potatoes are one of those things, blueberries, various types of gourd, squashes and those sorts of things. And so it gives you a chance to really just look at food and how it fit into the overarching human timeline. But it goes everywhere. So once you jump into one spot, you can be taken over off to a side, and the next thing you're looking at is, oh, so that's the first person that made an egg custard that wasn't the one that we found out from talking about the Silk Road. And yeah, now I'm confused. So it's a good idea to just pick a thing, look at the thing, and then if you really want to go and look at that thing again later, probably bookmark it. But it's a wonderful resource. I think it's a lot of fun. Some of the sites are a little outdated. Some of the things I saw, they really stopped looking at the dates on some of their sources in the mid 2000s. So some of you that are a little more into this kind of thing may have more recent resources at your disposal, but it's really a fantastic resource if you just want to see the overarching breadth of everything.
Well, that sounds very interesting. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on the arts and science websites. I really think you're providing people with a lot of food for thought.
I opened the door to that one. I really did. That
was easy. But thank you very much. I might actually check that out, so, as I do every week. Who's our first guest this evening?
We have as the Earl Marshal for the Kingdom of Caid, Master Oliver Dogberry is going to be joining us today.
All righty. Well, I'll put you in your corner, and let's bring in our good friend Oliver. Oliver's right here. Hold on. Don't say anything. There you go.
Hey, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you, Master Oliver?
Doing pretty good. It's been an interesting time all around, but we're doing well.
So, as of the last online royal court, you've stepped up into the position as a Kingdom Earl Marshal, and you want to tell people a little bit what you've done in the marshal prior to that?
Before that, I've been a marshal and a senior marshal within the rapier community. I was the deputy for the Kingdom Rapier Marshal, then spent 3.5 years as the Kingdom Rapier Marshal. And what I've been doing when I was that, I was trying to figure out what my next step would be and where I'd continue serving the kingdom, because I want to keep giving back to the SCA and Caid because they've done so much for me. But the Earl Marshal plays to my strengths for team building and project management. So it's something I've been kind of thinking about and been looking forward to.
Right, and it might be very obvious to some people that you're not a knight, you're not a member of the chivalry, but you are a member of the marshal peerage, and so it's taking over this position. So, over the years, this position's kind of gone back and forth on how it's been structured. So, what's your plan for the position you're taking on?
Well, I look at this as an administrative position more than anything else, with a team of kingdom marshals of every type that we have there, from armored combat, rapier, archery, and the rest. It is something that you have a subject matter expert, a SME, in that each of those positions that are doing the majority of the work within those positions, and as administrator on the top, you interface between them and the crown. You make sure all the paperwork gets done. You help support them as necessary. So to me, this is more administrative and trying to make sure that everything is functioning well and everybody gets a chance to do what they want to do within the kingdom.
Right. So you're kind of administrating, looking over the rule books, getting the different disciplines to talk to each other, the deputies, to see if there's some coordination on experimental programs or any issues that might be handled across discipline, that kind of stuff. It's getting that communication going between the different empowered deputies that you have across the different disciplines.
Yes, so it's part of what I wanted to do. I mean, we're in a position right now where we have downtime, and the best thing you can do with downtime is to perform maintenance. And so some of the things that I'm looking forward to doing is, reviewing all the kingdom deputies' warrants, make sure they're up to date, talk to each of them, determine what I can do to help them within their community. I want to establish an online group for all the deputies so that we can facilitate communications between ourselves, between them and me and each other, so that we have the ability to speak at a single point. I might start out with a Facebook page and then see what the kingdom has in a way of Google or other type of meeting type setups, and then probably ask each of them to review their manuals, because most of the manuals are dated 2017 and there are 2020 manuals out for most of the different forms. So I would like to see us take this time while we have free time, but not much else is taking our focus away, and get our manuals up to date with society.
Okay, so now let's just talk about your background a little bit. I mean, a lot of people know Master Oliver, but when it comes to the martial field, I mean, let's see, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I barely do research. Let's say you're an authorized armored combatant, correct?
Correct.
And you do okay on the rapier field, and you're authorized equestrian, correct?
Correct.
And what about thrown weapons and archery? I'm not.
I've played around with them, but I haven't actually authorized in them. So I am familiar with people in the communities somewhat, especially when I was Baron for 5 years. I would focus on all the different communities within the barony, and I get a chance every once in a while in our barony to play with thrown weapons when I have some free time. And I haven't had much chance to play with the archery as much as I would like, but that doesn't mean that I love them any less.
Right. And so when it comes to your deputies, so the deputies, are they it's kind of the reporting structure that's laid out in Kingdom Law, right? So they're kind of overseeing their discipline and report up to you?
Correct. And they also report up to society as well, to their counterpart society. But everything that they do, they will report up to me. I will take a look at what's going on. And then if necessary, I can communicate with the Crown to determine if we need to make any changes, if we need to help them out in any way, and make sure that they have the resources and whatever else they need to be able to do and play within their communities. Like I said, right now we're just kind of in a holding pattern as everybody else in the known world. But once we get back with boots on the ground and are able to go back and do events and practices, I want to make sure everybody can have a way of doing that well.
Okay, we have a question from Baroness Tina. It's about how do we train new marshals during this downtime? We can.
That's a very good question. Haven't had a chance to think about that much, but we can, much like we're doing here or some of the other Facebook and Zoom chats, hold marshallet classes. And so if in a given form, armored combat, I will have to talk to my deputies, and we can see about having a martial class for each of the different weapons forms, perhaps once a month, so that they can learn what's going on and have the senior marshals within that form give that information out. We do this at events or at a collegium, so the online form of that should be pretty much the same, and we can actually probably reach more people because they won't be interfering with taking away from their time at an event.
Okay, and then I know there's been some talk about the online database resource, seeing who's authorized, that kind of stuff. Are there plans to address or upgrade or update that?
Yes, I've actually got a list of questions I'm going to be submitting to each of the other 19 kingdoms, try to poll that. And there's also a society-wide fighter database that I'm working on looking at as well, and see what they have. Because one of the things I've heard ever since I became a fighter is complaints about our online fighter database. And if we can replace it with something that's better, I'd like to do that. And I'd like to look to the future. If the society-wide fighter database goes online, I'd like to be able to be part of that, maybe help give some input into things that I'd like to see it have implemented within itself.
Okay. And so once we're back up and running and doing events and doing the larger events and such, you'll be serving the role as the Earl Marshal, working with the Crown and your deputies for the interkingdom events like Estrella or anything like that, those situations that come up. But I think it'll be a good challenge and a good opportunity to show the other kingdoms, the opportunities when they're placing administrative type of role in this position. Do you feel like you'll have those conversations too, or just going to kind of roll, or what are you thinking?
It'll be interesting. I'm hoping to have, at half my time at wars anyway, is, I don't want to say political, but at least administratively political. When I have been talking mostly rapier, but I have gotten into other groups that I've chatted with, and going forward to be my times at war will most likely be just touching bases with counterparts in the other kingdoms. But it would be nice to sit down and see how they're running it, what they do. I've actually started this somewhat already with some of my online Zoom meetings that I have, talking to my mod counterparts and seeing how their kingdoms are running the Earl Marshal and what they do within the rapier side at this point. I've got people in about 11, 12 kingdoms that I communicate with on a semi-regular basis already, most of the mods. But yes, I think that once we get back up, I'll be able to glean information, because I love knowing the inter-kingdom anthropology that we have on how we do something, and the different kingdoms do things ever so slightly different than the way we do stuff, and from each other as well. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, I can say probably about 10, 15 years ago that this structure was very popular on the East Coast kingdoms, but really didn't make it any further than the East Coast. We incorporated it in back then and ran with it for a while. And then the society marshal that's getting ready to step down, he kind of built that structure at the society level too, so that he had a very empowered armored deputy. So one last question from Nico is he's talking about the fact that many fighters and marshals authorizations have expired during this time. And is there going to be a kind of a rollout plan, or are we just going to drive to your house that some things can be official, or how's that going to roll?
I'm going to have to talk to the Crown, but I think we've started on the path of giving people an extension at this point, so that they can either re-auth it now, or perhaps re-auth with a online communication with them to talk about what they're going on. It's difficult to do an actual physical, how are they fencing, how are they shooting, how are they handling sword and board. The assumption that I would have is that they would be as good as they have been. We're all going to suffer for the next time we actually get together on our prowess and our forms, because we're all going to be very, very rusty. So we'll have to take it easy to begin with. But I think I would like to do an extension for the first year.
I would think part of the challenge is that authorizations and reauthorizations have to happen at an official event or practice. And since we can't do that, that kind of makes it a challenge unless there's a variance from corporate. So
that's why I need to talk to Crown.
Yeah. So it sounds like, and it's almost time for Beorn to ask his question, that with this structure, you're going to be very much relying on the communication, timely reporting, and all that from not only your immediate deputies, but the deputies under that too. That's going to be kind of key to the success of helping the kingdom come through this kind of darkened time we've been in, and get people safely and successfully back on the field. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, this is, we can't do the talking in person per se, but having the structure go forth and everybody go up and down from the Earl Marshal down to the local marshals at a given area to communicate that information is going to be key.
All righty, so at this point, I turn it over to my friend Beorn with a question from him.
So, Master Oliver, when you or any other Earl Marshal has to oversee the production of known Caidan handbooks for armored combat, rapier combat, equestrian arts, basically thrown weapons, archery, both combat and target. But if you're not someone that you are maybe authorized, but someone that it's not an area of your expertise, how much do you rely on your deputies to get that through, to make sure that it is safe as possible?
Good question. Difficult in some ways to answer, but in essence, I am hoping to have a staff that is senior marshals within their form and have the knowledge, and if they don't, the ability to ask questions of others within their field to get things done. What I want to do is I'll be reviewing all the existing manuals for each of the forms when I talk to them, and determine from their input what changes need to be made from society level for kingdom specific rule changes. And I'll be talking with them to ask them why either we have something or we're removing something. And based on that input, we'll move forward.
Thank you. My last question is, so during this time of lockdown, people that are starting to get that renewed vigor to participate in their activities, once we are able to meet again, if someone wants to assist as a marshal on the rapier field or as a marshal on the heavies field, they want to they want to assist as best they can, but perhaps they're not part of a geographical unit. They're not part of a barony or a shire per se. Is there an at-large marshalate that people can belong to, or is it like heralds where it's like just the ordinary, or how does that work?
We used to have a lot more territorial marshals, but trying to figure out how to answer this well. There is no requirement to be a marshal only of your local territory. If you're a armored combat marshal or a senior armored combat marshal or an archery marshal, you're pretty much a kingdom marshal. So your local area should not be limiting to you except for your access to being able to participate based on what is going on in your area. And if you travel out of your area from one barony to the next, or from unincorporated area into a barony or shire, you should still be able to have your martial skills up to date and able to help out at that level.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
And thank you, Beorn, for those questions. So now's the part of the show that I enjoy that the guests enjoy the most. So we have a game for you today. And hey, Beorn, what's the name of this game?
Let's see. This is What's in a Name?
That's right. So since you're the Kingdom Earl Marshal, I would figure you would know famous earls in history. So I'm going to give you a description of someone that has Earl in their name, or description, and you need to guess who that Earl is. You got it?
I got it. I'm hoping the comments will help me out if I lack here a little bit.
Well, we'll start easy. This actor has won 3 Tony Awards, a Grammy Award, and 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, but is probably best known for his voiceover work.
James Earl Jones?
James Earl Jones. You need to have confidence. I mean, say it loud, say it proud. Okay, so let's see. What's another one? Oh, okay. This man's name was John Montague, and he held various military and political offices, including Postmaster General, First Lord of the Admiralty, and Secretary of State for the Northern Department. But he's best known for inventing something you would eat. What was his title?
The Earl of Sandwich.
The Earl of Sandwich. 2 for 2. Very nice. Okay, let's gonna get a little bit harder now.
Uh-oh.
This was a 1962 massive hit that reached #1 on the Billboard charts. It was originally a voice warm-up exercise for the lead singer of the band, and originally called "Do Do Do" was the first lyrics, and they changed it to this. What is the name of this #1 1962 hit?
Wow. It's got Earl in it.
It has Earl in it. It actually has an FCA title in it. Okay, so it's an SCA title. So let's see.
Earl?
Duke of Earl. That is correct. Oh my gosh! See, 3 for 3. And you thought this was going to be hard.
Oh.
Okay. So here's another one.
I think I'm too sober. I should have get somebody to drink.
This guy I actually saw play because he played at the University of Texas. So he's a legendary NFL running back who's a member of the Pro Football and College Football Hall of Fame. He won the Heisman Trophy at Texas. Looking forward. In 1977, after leading the country in rushing, and spent his career with the Houston Oilers and the New Orleans Saints.
You would have to be a sports question.
I know. He was the Tyler Pearl. So you can guess what his first name is.
It's with Tyler what?
Pearl. So it rhymes with Pearl. What would be his first name?
Earl.
Earl. There we go. Oh, Do you have a Beorn? Do you have a guess?
I'm going to go with Earl Campbell.
Earl Campbell. Okay, so here's one trivia thing for Earl Campbell. His one thigh. Well, he had two thighs, but each thigh measured 34 inches around, which is bigger than my waist. So it was fascinating to watch him play. Anyway, okay, so last one. He missed one, but it's a sports thing. Who knows? Okay, so this is probably the most influential and most well-known person named Earl. He was an American politician who served as governor of California and was Chief Justice of the United States in the 50s through 1969. Who is this Earl?
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh. And you call yourself a student of history. Well, it's just recent history, right?
Recent history.
You know, and the viewers aren't helping either. So
I know. It's like, give me a first letter.
Oh, well, close, Nico.
Wow. Nico. Wait,
Nico, close.
Earl Warden?
Oh, there you go. So read Nico's last one.
Warren.
Yeah, Earl Warren. He actually, he oversaw the Warren Commission for President Kennedy.
I'm used to the Warren Commission, but I never knew his first name.
Well, yeah, and just so you know, my dad's first name was Earl also.
We led with that.
Oh, I should have led with it. Well, see, okay, his name was Earl, and his dad's name was Earl. So in some alternate dimension, my name's Earl. So anyway, thank you very much for coming on today and putting up with our craziness. Hopefully people have a better idea how the office works. If they want to get in touch with you, is the Kingdom email set up for you for your office?
Not yet. We're in the middle of trying to transfer everything over. I need to double check with the Kingdom.
The Kingdom Web Minister. So
yes,
yeah, and I believe when it's up and running, it's going to be marshall@sca-caid.org.
It will be for now. There's a lot of spam that goes down, so I'm going to talk to them about maybe getting an alternate email address in at some point.
Okay.
But for now, that's correct.
Hot Sexy Marshall@sca.caid. That one will work, right?
I think it was already taken.
Collared Fighter at sca-caid.org.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Oliver. I appreciate your time, and thank you for stepping up into this office and all the hard work that lies ahead. Thank you so much. Say hello to Caid for us.
I will.
All right. So, Earl Campbell, very nice, Beorn. I'm impressed.
Well, you know, when you're, okay, how can I put this? Born in Oklahoma, I went to high school in Georgia, and I went to college in Mississippi, and I'm 6'6". I had to play football. That was just the law. I could not play football.
True.
So yeah.
But he was amazing to watch.
He was, and here's the other thing. So when he played for Houston, his jersey number was 34, and when he played for the Saints, his jersey number was 35. And some folks thought that meant his thighs got bigger. If you've eaten New Orleans food, that's entirely possible.
Yeah, everything has at least one stick of butter in it.
At least.
So who do we have coming up next on the show?
My most adorable, diminutive, and yet just spooky as all heck cousin, Mistress Caitlin, is going to be performing for us next. And I have performed with her on stage. She is amazing, and we're so very honored to have her with us this evening.
All righty, so let's bring her on the show. And she'll be here right about now. Hello, how are you? Oh, you have to remember, I have to unmute you. There you go. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, you're looking very resplendent.
Thank you. This is scary. I decided to do Scary Viking Lady tonight. So that's a special treat because it's the first time I've been able to dress in garb in months. So I'm taking advantage of it.
Yeah, see, Beorn's just Scary Viking, whatever he wears.
I know, but I'm only 5 foot tall, so I have to work at it.
So thank you for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
Just a couple of things. So how without sounding too personal, how long have you been in the SCA?
Well, I started in 1984, went through a very public divorce, so left for 12 years. And then when I came back, I had remade myself in many, many ways. And one of them was that I decided to concentrate on whatever theater talent that I had. And frankly, was grateful to this day that I was accepted back so lovingly, because I used to be a different person.
Right.
And I never left, and I don't ever intend to. So that's who I am now.
And you've always been in Caid.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I was born here,
Mhm.
grew up in the South, so I can get a Texas accent back and Tennessee very quickly. But I've been back here for almost 20 years.
Right. I totally understand. That's where I get y'all from, because I
Exactly.
So, and what do you consider the areas that really interest you in the bardic performances? Is it?
Well, storytelling mostly. Storytelling and acting. It's easier to tell a story than to get a theater production together, at least for me. But much of my storytelling is highly characterized and half acted. So I do all the characterizations and the characters, and I won't do this tonight, but one of my very favorite things is doing the three weird sisters from Macbeth. And the way I play them, they all three have different heights and voices and looks, and it's really so much fun to play. But tonight will be Norse.
Oh, Three Weird Sisters. I think I dated them. So you want to tell us about the story you're going to tell tonight?
Yes, absolutely. This story, which is about Earl Sigurd of Orkney. He was a hero about 200, maybe about 200 years after the time when he was supposed to live, when in the 13th and 14th centuries, when the sagas and some of the longer poems came out. So we don't quite know if he was a real person or not. In 3 out of the 4 places where we find him, in Heimskringla, Njál's Saga, one more's name I cannot recall, he was definitely a hero. But in the Orkneyinga, which is all about the Earls of Orkney, he didn't come across nearly as well. In this, that's prose. What I did was take one of the stories about him and the raven banner that he wore into battle, and I created a poem, which is done in alliterative Norse style, with the 2 stressed syllables in the first half line of every line are alliterative, and then the first stress symbol in the second half line alliterate with the first and second. So it's tricky, but it's a lot of fun. And I cast it somewhat differently than other people. We have a lot of wonderful songs and performances in the SCA about the Raven Banner, and I love them. But the Raven Banner had a very, very dark side. And this being me, I really am spooky. I decided to do it. Earl Sigurd and the Raven Banner, a cautionary tale.
Well, it sounds fascinating. I can't wait to hear it. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Songs we sing of Odin's messengers, Raven's black bearers of the bright word. One eye's will flown into the world, sage spells, test men's deeds. Rodver's heir to the Orkneys, storm-clad center of the sea roads, dragon ships dock midst their deadly passage, soaring the sea to slay their foes. Earl's fame earns a queen. Audna was her name. Wed he Audna, wife and weird woman, vowed to the vaunted lady, victory's brave. No maid's magic, unmanfully asked. One day, Lodver trod the hell path. Hail at dawn, dead at noontide. Earl's son Sigurd sat the high seat. Stout was he and strong, seemingly fearless. He feared no fate but one, to fail that which he faced. From the Scots land to the south sailed Earl Finlick. Long ships 11 in number left sky ports. Many strong men manned their oars, the Orkneys their aim, its harbors their prize. Sigurd sighted them, set his men to wait, to fall back before their foes till Fiflord returned. Sigurd to Skidamire swiftly rode the sorceress to see, Sybil named Audra. Earl's own mother, augur and spellweaver, came he to the cave, living cairn since her lord's death. Silently, she signed for her son to approach. The Earl stood still, spoke of Finlick's army. 7 men to 1 of mine, your magic we need. Witch us so we may wage war against the Scots. With scorn, the sorceress, her son's eyes fixed. I would have warded you in my wool basket if I knew you feared the fall of the brave. Do your duty and die if God wills. But since you, my son, are set on a sager course, then this brave banner may bear your courage for you. Victory it gives him before it is carried, but it is the bane of him who bears it. From a chest she took a cloth that shone in the dimness, a weave woven by a wise woman, blackbirds soaring on bright banner, wrought with strange spells, sorcery gleaming. A goodly gift grants the raven, for he who fills the flag will fall and to Valhalla go. But he who bears not the banner, his bravery is forfeit. Hugin and Munin will judge between them. Sigurd was wroth at her words, for wicked he judged them. Silently he snatched the banner and strode from his sight. If to Odin geld was owed, then the earl would pay, but Finlick would fall first on the field. To the shore Sigurd rode, the Scots to meet. In battle array, brawling men bore proud banners. Weapons glittered, warriors roared. War surge meets, glint of weapons, blood glistened shields glaring at the foe. Armies crashed together with clanging blades. Sigurd's standard bearer streamed the raven banner. Into the air aloft it flew. All who fought Sigurd fell. And the banner bearer too was borne to the ground. 3 more brave bearers bore it across the field. 3 more fighters to the fates fell that day. Ere the valiant, for vanity's sake, his victory achieved, warriors, be wary of spell-wrought deeds. Wind-blown banner wets blade woes, and bearer's blood is its bounty. Yet Orkney men overlooked Earl's lost honor. For the savage sacrifice, satisfaction was deemed. 20 years of time, then trod the Earl, while the spell-wrought raven rested in shadows. Then Maelmorda, monarch of Leinster, rose in revolt, a rival for the high throne. Brian Boru's lawful brother by marriage. Blood's brother to Gormleth, Brian's own queen. Queen Gormleth gained ground with allies. Her brother Maelmorda, the chief man among them. Her son Sigtrygg despised his stepfather Brian, and kinship was not to killers with a king to betray. Sigurd gave Sigtrygg his assent to war, to punish the prince for his pride of high place. Crooked conspirators to Clontarth would go, felling Brian Boru, the royal blood to spill. Took the earl the weird wrapped spell weave, set sail with his men. South they bore, Orkney joining Ulster and O'Neill. Ancient rights to recover, a rule to end. At Clontarth, the companies clashed on the field. Monarch's heir Murchad the Irishman led, Cirthilfalad, King's foster son, cleaved the way. Fell warriors forced forward to Sigurd's line. Sailed the standard, snapping in the wind. Before many spears bore its bearer to the ground. For honor another raced it, a man with courage. His battle went badly, overborne was he. Standing with Sigurd still were his kin. Their sacrifice would stay, certain defeat. To Thorstein of Sida, Sigurd cried that he should bear the banner, the battle to save. Yet Asmund the White warned of woe to come. Thorstein heeded his words and hasted away. Sigurd roared at Ruffin the Red to raise the banner, but Ruffin denied and dare him, your own devil bear. Sigurd spat his command. Scarce heed gave Ruffin, Earlkin gave no ground, no glory in magecraft. Sigurd snatched up the cloth, a sigil to take. Mayhap the beggar should bear his own bag. From its pole he plucked it, placed it in his cloak, clasping it close to a coward's heart. When a spear pierced Sigurd, slicing also the raven, fell was Earl's passing, and evil his fate. The same fate failed his men, and fast they fled, swiftly taking sail upon the gray sea. Killed was the High King, and of his ken many fell. Fallen too was Maelmorda, much mourned was he, Irish and O'Neill and Ulsterman united in uneasy peace. Our Skidamire saw Sigurd's fall. The weird women of Caithness the war weave cut, singing their song of earls ending. So fell the savage sigil, the seer of deeds.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much. I love how you paint the picture. You know, it sounds very cliche, but painting the picture with the words and the alliteration and just bringing it.
Yes, I love that. That's not every Norse poem has it. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of years, but so many of them do. I love playing with it where I can.
I think Beorn wants to come in and say something right quick. Let's bring him in.
I just wanted to say that I've been extremely fortunate in my SCA life to have performed on stage with Caitlin, and it's unfortunately she played my mom, which she's way too young to be.
Oh no, not really.
But she did a great job. It's like, yes, that 5 foot tall diminutive lady birthed this behemoth, and that was really the only suspension of disbelief the audience had, because other than that, she carried me. It was fantastic.
Oh no, we didn't.
Always.
It was so funny because the queen was just awful. She was so historical queen, so bloodthirsty, so terrible. She would sacrifice her mother, her sons, her husband, her father to get what she wanted, and she raised a son just like her. So it was so much fun.
I had a blast. I don't ever get to play the bad guy, so it was really neat. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this evening. We really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing that story. That was
Thank
amazing.
you very much. I loved it. Thank you.
All right, well, have a good evening. Thank you so much. Well, that was great.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oof. Like I said, you could just picture it in your head. So.
When she's able to, I'd say it this way because, you know, as you say, as I say so many times, when we're looking at a little glass square at whatever the webcam is that we're looking at as a performer, it's not as easy necessarily to embody what it is we're trying to do. And she's so amazing at it. But when she's on stage and she's able to single out individuals with her eyes, it's like watching a tiny little Viking lady crawl through a TV. It is scary as hell. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah, I'm sure that's exactly how she wants to describe her performance. Anyway, so next week, for at the top of the show, we're going to have Mistress Thea, Northern Ridge, come in and talk about silent heraldry, talk about the history of ASL, and perhaps even give us a quick lesson. So I have more than one hand gesture.
That'll be a lot of fun.
And we have some party performances lined up.
Yes, we do. We have a guest coming from Untitled. Her Ladyship Lucia Laverick will be performing for us next week. We're very excited to have her with us. She's someone that's very active in the Bardic arts, both online right now and, of course, in her Untitled, in the Kingdom of Untitled. And so we're really excited to have a guest come visit.
All right. Well, Beorn, I'm glad you're doing well. Thank you again. It's good to see you. We had last week off, so it's good to see you again, my friend. And thank you, everyone, for watching tonight. And be sure to join us next week when, once again, we're going to be live from Caid.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.